Illinois lawmakers have less than a week left for this year's session. But like we've been talking about for months, a lot has to get done before they can gavel out in Springfield. It's why we're joined once again by our Illinois political expert, Peter Hancock, State House reporter with Capitol News, Illinois. All right, Peter, thanks for joining us on this holiday. Things are supposed to be finalized with the budget on Sunday. Where do they stand right now?
Well, the budget process is moving along. It's kind of hard to tell, until it actually hits the floor exactly what shape it's going to take. The governor proposed essentially a $55 billion general fund budget at the beginning of the session. It looks like lawmakers are going to try and hit that target. The big question is whether or not they can pass a revenue package to go along with it. That does need some additional revenue. There are some creative revenue proposals out there, such as a tax on social media companies, a tax on digital advertising, a few other proposals out there to kind of round out the budget. And the other question is whether or not they'll stick with the governor's plan for K through 12 education spending. There is some pressure to increase education spending. Some districts remain very underfunded, and there's been some pressure to increase beyond the $300 million increase that the governor proposed.
Okay, you bring up education funding right there, and I want to circle back to that in just a second. But first, we know the budget is very complicated. What are some of the other big sticking points that lawmakers are still kind of working on before they can pass this?
Well, it's one of those things. A lot of horse trading goes on. There are a lot of other major pieces of legislation, and everything, the budget hinges on everything else. There's, a lot of vote swapping and favor exchanges. But a number of proposals, a number of issues that are still hanging out there. One, of course, has to do with a Chicago Bears stadium. There's a proposal to provide some incentives for what are called mega projects, very large, high dollar projects, such as a new sports stadium that would afford them some property tax breaks. There are a couple of major proposals on the table dealing with pharmaceutical drugs. One having to do with a very complicated issue around what's called the 340B drug pricing program, which is a federal program. There's been a lot of television advertising about that, issue-oriented advertising. A lot of issues like that that are still hanging out there. Some insurance regulation for automobile and homeowners insurance. Issues like that that have to get resolved one way or the other before they get down to the budget, which is typically the last the last bill that goes through on the 31st.
And it's certainly not the only bill that lawmakers are looking at right now. One that they are potentially still trying to pass in the next few days would essentially ban Glock pistols in the state. It's not looking at Glocks themselves, but rather the design of guns, which Glocks are the same design. So what's the argument here?
Yeah, it has to do with pistols that have a certain kind of trigger design. The issue is that they are very easily converted into essentially machine guns. They're called do-it-yourself machine guns because they can be adapted with a certain switch. That switch is already illegal, but now there are some lawmakers who would just like to ban the gun entirely. That, of course, brings up a lot of Second Amendment issues. The supporters of this bill say, we're not taking away your right to self-defense. We're not taking away your right to own a gun. We're just taking this particular gun off the market. The gun rights advocates, of course, don't accept that logic at all. That was kind of a late breaking issue. Just came up, within the last several days. There and these things will happen, but we'll see how that goes. So far, that bill has passed out of a committee in the House. It still needs to pass both chambers of the legislature.
Well, really quickly, I wanted to circle back to education because we have to talk about after-school funding. You have reported that about $18 million that was meant to go support after-school programs was only just distributed last month. And now these programs have to use the money by August or they have to give it back to the state. So I want to ask you, what has this delay meant for these programs across Illinois?
Well, this delay is actually on top of lots of other funding issues that they've had. This was the second time in a row that the state has had difficulty getting its money out the door. There, the Trump administration has also tried to cut off federal funding for these programs. There are some federal lawsuits dealing with that. And then the state of Illinois just has a very uh, complex and sort of disorganized system. There are a lot of different agencies that hand out grants of one form or another for these after school programs. The impact is that programs in some schools just have either gone out of business or have had to reduce their staff, reduce their budgets. A lot of parents depend on these for childcare, working parents. Uh, they know that their children are safe and engaged in some sort of meaningful activity after school until the parents can get home. They also provide some essential services in addition to, we think of just recreation programs on the playground after school, but they also offer tutoring and just a lot of other, academic supports for children. These are important programs in schools that serve a lot of the most vulnerable children. And so the difficulty that Illinois has had getting the money out the door and keeping these programs funded on a stable and predictable basis has really caused some problems.
Certainly has, and we know that you'll continue to follow this, and we so appreciate your reporting today and the whole session long. Peter, thank you so much for joining us on this holiday.